If you say so.
All right, I think we're live now.
I think
Okay.
we
Oh my
are.
god.
So, Dodger, you want to take it away? You can lead this episode.
All right, well, welcome to Tac-Com Season 3, Episode 2. I'm Felby Dodger, joined with Chaps, or I don't know, over here, that way.
Yeah.
Also with two-time guests, I believe, Typographic, and Waldo for the first time. So,
Is it really season 3? Because I need to
it
go
is
binge watch season 1 and 2.
Season 1 was a complete mess around the Judgment time frame.
Yeah. Well, so was Arrow, so that's okay.
yeah, that is true.
We had a guy in a chicken suit with a gas mask on.
That's
Wow.
true.
It was a mess, and it was mostly community focused rather than about the game.
Okay.
We slowly shifted to be more about the game.
I'm guessing that was a chicken cosplay.
No, it was
There was a
just-
Terrace
he
Dizzy
said a
cosplay.
chicken suit.
Okay. I mean, it's whatever. The cluck shot.
Cluck shot.
So, oh, you know
I think
what?
the Reapers all look like chickens. That was like my impression of it, like chickens that were floating.
Sorry, 1 second. I'm muting quick text so that doesn't appear.
Oh boy.
Not good.
All right. So I guess before we get started, Typo, you can do a quick introduction, who you are and what you do.
Hi, my name's Typo. As we were saying in the pre-show, I don't really know why I'm here. I don't even like Gears of War. No, I don't know. I guess I've been called a community leader. Some people have pointed people to me for all sorts of things like giveaways and beta codes and sources of information and or memes. But basically, I just hang out. Sometimes I go and look at the forums and then cry. And other times I look at the forums and there's good ideas. Most of the good ideas come from the three guys also on the show right now. So congrats to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Waldo, you post on the forums?
Yeah, actually,
What?
scary thing. Like I'm like a ninja. I like playing like the Where's Waldo on the forums. Like I'll post in like the dark corner so people don't know I'm there because I was one of those kids way back in the day where I had like a 5,000 plus post count, and then I was like, this isn't worth my time anymore, so I'm not gonna post here as much. And now I kind of like select little things where I'll say like I'll come up like a ninja and I'll just say something quick and then I'm out again because no one's got time to sit around.
Which I found that strategy is both good and bad. I mean, over the course of the beta, things got a little heated in the community, and some people started flying things like typo. You only come out of nowhere when a new gal comes around, and I'm like, again, not worth my time. So yeah, tread easy with that, of course. If you're listening and you're a community member, either you stay consistent or just don't stay question mark. But yeah, no, we honestly do love the community. I think Waldo does a lot behind the scenes, really. Same with myself to a degree. I have kind of slowed down, but I know sometimes me and Waldo team up. We have a lot of secret phone calls when things are going haywire. So yeah, no, it's great. I know that we're probably both super flattered to be asked to be back on this show, especially prestigious episode 2 of season 3.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pleasure to be on here. This is like my first time on Tac-Com, so it's nice. For those who don't know me, I'm a caster and analyst. I work for Hypefestation, Rec Nation kind of thing. I own the GearsCon IP now. Like I've owned it for a long time, but I kind of only bring it up when it's valid, like relevant, because I don't want to run a fan site anymore. It's too much work. I don't have enough time. I'd rather just make content and have fun on the side. I'm really opinionated. You'll either like me or you hate me. That's usually the two ways that it goes. Unless you're like John and we're like star-crossed lovers, so
Yeah.
that's the way that works out. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be on here. Hopefully we can bring some insight to why things were done in the past and our opinions about how we think Gears of War could be better. I think that's the way to say it. How it could
Yeah.
be better.
Yeah, I mean we like the game, but who wouldn't want, a better game?
I mean,
So-
if
Exactly.
you love something, you need to be able to critique it.
Yeah, there you go.
If
I've said
you
that a
can't
couple
critique
times.
it, then you're just a normal fan. You're not like a hardcore fan.
Right.
Oh,
And I don't
I was
think-
also that guy that got the judgment tattoo, so my thigh has nice crimson omen on it.
Oh yeah,
Another fun fact.
Oh yeah, you're the one who got the release date tattoo, right?
yeah.
Yeah, Judgment was a
You're
great
not
game.
Lisa. You're not Lisa. Oh wait,
No,
that
she
was
got
this.
on her ribs.
That was this game. Never mind. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm interested. I'm interested to know actually before we kick this off. What is Kyle's sandwich? Like, what type of sandwich is it?
It's actually it's a 3 meat and cheese sandwich I got from the store.
What meats though? Like,
Was it roast beef, turkey, and ham
okay, there you
with
go.
American, Swiss, and I believe provolone cheese.
American. That's all that really matters there.
American.
Merca.
I love the Swiss though.
That's our little
can get down
tribute
with
to Parasidian, the
Said.
Tac-Com member turned coalition mod turned coalition employee who is no longer
Whoa.
on our show.
Yeah.
He's
A
like,
moment
I
of silence
know-
for a second.
He's like,
Well,
I
there was a
know-
lot of moments of silence when he was around and we were talking multiplayer, so it works out.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah, and this one's primarily going to be multiplayer, so he'd be doing a lot of eating. With that, Dodger, do you want to kick us off on our first topic?
Well, since we're talking about the beta, basically the entire episode, what do you guys think of how the beta was handled initially?
What part of how
Okay,
it
so
was handled?
yeah, let's get some
Like-
clarity
Yeah.
on that. Like, how
All right.
Loaded question.
That's such a yeah, it is. It's true. So how do you guys feel that how the early access
That part.
like what was it long well was the beta long enough to 2 weeks, let's say, for early access and the open beta?
Waldo, you can go ahead.
long enough? I don't think there was enough content, honestly, for 2 weeks. Like, you might as well just done it like in a week, and you could have gotten pretty much the synopsis of the entire thing. Like, the early access didn't need to be like an entire week. It could have been like 3 days, but then there was like family and friends early access, which was like 3 extra days.
Yeah.
And then you gave out all the codes to, like, I understand, like, it's a whole marketing strategy and smart. You want people to look at the game, but you gave out all these codes to all these big streamers, and they played it for 3 days. Not even 3 days, maybe a night.
Yeah.
And then you had one
Talk
of
shit
them,
about it.
like- well, you had one of them just dumpster the shit out of it and just didn't care. Like, that happened, and everyone's all like, "Can you please not offend our game?" Well, I was like, "Well, I can't even stand up right now and say this is the best game that I've ever played." So, at the same right, like, if you're gonna give codes out, you have to be aware, like, who you're giving it to and how brutally that they're gonna be with it. Now they did a bunch of feedback, but we'll get into that point later. Like, I think the overall thing is it didn't need to be 2 weeks, and if it was gonna be 2 weeks, like Halo, what was Halo 5's beta, John? Was it like 3 weeks, and they kept dropping new stuff every week?
Yeah, I think that a couple different game modes came into play. Maybe a slight rotation of maps. I can't really remember the length. It was a while back, but we could Google it, or somebody in the chat could Google it. But yeah, I really feel that the beta that we got probably shouldn't have been 2 weeks long. Like, I mean, I'm just thinking from the perspective of we got like an alpha preview for Doom, and then we got a beta preview for Doom, and like neither of those like together lasted the entirety of what the Gal beta lasted. Do I think it was nice? Sure. I mean, for people that really enjoyed it and wanted to play it, but like honestly, I think I put 24 hours in, and I know that the Xbox lies because anytime you're at a menu or something, it counts time away. So I probably put in less than 24 hours on the beta. Could I say I didn't have fun? No, I did have fun when there were people to play with, but I think the big issue was just that the way people initially got it. Like, obviously, you had a lot of people that were questionable with their involvement in the community. I don't really care. Like this is not coming from me. I ended up getting a code in DMs via a person, and I unfortunately I was just too busy, so I didn't even get to play it until like the next day or something. But regardless, I think the competitive community's big gripe was they were kind of put in timeout, where they could only play bots, and that way some people were able to like streamers and content creators were able to just play around online and kind of get whatever content they needed, and then they got out, because most of them weren't streamers or fans. Like a handful of them were, of course, but from a marketing strategy, it both worked and backfired. I mean, I'm not going to play elephant in the room. I mean, obviously, we all saw Lyric stream, and that was fun. The entirety of like 15 minutes that was. But, some of those things needed to be done, I think. If Gears wants to be taken seriously as a game, especially as an esport, we've got to be able to criticize. And so ultimately, I think the longer the beta was, the more broken we found out the game was. I mean, I know I watched the Tac-Com beta glitch compilations 1, 2, 3, and honestly, like the fact that you guys found that much stuff wrong with the game,
the stuff that I recorded.
Yeah,
like,
just the stuff you recorded.
That was
but like the fact that you guys found that much stuff was like mind blowing to me, because I pretty much just stopped at like a quarter of that, and I was like, nope, this game not right now. So yeah.
Okay, so
it could have been handled better.
I think it could have gone
Gears 4.
I think it could have gone for 2 weeks if they had sort of changed up. And
Escalation.
I honestly,
Exactly.
I thought they were going to release that like halfway through. But I think one thing that I really didn't like about the beta is they didn't seem to change anything up. They didn't do the Ultimate Edition route where it's, hey, let's test active reloads on or off and see if people like it. We'll talk about those later. But it's like,
yeah,
they didn't have any of these trigger things that they tried to test out and tweak.
Well, they did at PAX, according to some players, but that doesn't mean for the scope of everyone. Like you said, like they didn't try, let's turn actives off for a day or two like they did during the UE beta. Yeah. That would have been nice to see. That would have been nice to know. Obviously, a lot of people, I think the biggest gripe across the board was people had a lot of complaints about blast radius of nades and planning of nades due to the blast radius. Not being able to survive, them staying after rounds, etc. And so, like, if they could have just turned them off for a day, maybe people would have said, "Oh my God, it's so much better." Like, who knows? We don't know because they didn't do it, so we'll never know.
Yeah. So the Gears 4 beta was 2 weeks, with 3 maps, with 2 game modes, basically. I mean, TDM with bots. This is TDM, with no changes, right? So the Halo 5 beta had 7 maps on rotation with 3 unique game modes, and it had a couple of changes over a 3-week period. So that's the
So I guess it's not so much the length at question; it's just the
content.
The content changing and rotating, getting people wanting to play it. I did honestly think that the beta awards could have been a little higher than 20. I mean, I know, like, grand,
he hit 100 in the first week.
it's like grand scheme of things, people, probably won't hit 4 hours of playtime, especially if they don't really like the game. I get that, because, like, we have to look at it from a Destiny standpoint, right? I play Destiny, not anymore, but I mean, when I did play Destiny, I thought the game was the easiest game ever. Like, it is Halo with training wheels on top of the bounties that you get. Like, all the bounties were super simple to get because, not trying to toot my own horn. I just feel like the game. I just feel like the game's not a very hard game, and then they made the game like consistently easier and easier and easier every single iteration. And so at some point, I'm just like, I don't even want to play this anymore. And so to say that, like, the bounties were pretty simple to get. Like 5 kills, not that big a deal. 2,000 points. If you play like 2 rounds of TDM, you should easily hit 2,000 points. So I think like they really set the bar low is the thing, and so come October they could wow all of us from every single angle. Like, not just like one perspective of the game is going to have to improve. It's like literally every perspective of the game is going to have to be just phenomenal.
Yeah. So, speaking of level, level 20 is 4 hours of playtime. Well, I mean, what was your level?
Probably like mid 30s somewhere. I basically didn't even really play much of the second week. So I got busy. I had work and other things come up. But if like people, especially people that had never played Gears, like I had a few people I'm friends with in the Call of Duty and the Halo communities that they kind of reached out like, oh, typo, show me the ways, sort of thing. You know, like I helped them. I played a couple rounds or played a few hours maybe with them just because I definitely want to introduce people to this game because I love it. But, you know, there obviously comes with a big disclaimer like, this is not a finished product. This is not how powerful some of these weapons should be. This is not how, you know, this particular glitchy thing should ever operate or whatever. So, like, you know, I told them, you know, go easy, take it with a grain of salt. The only thing you're really going to take away from this is you're going to have to learn mechanics like movement and stuff to even remotely, you know, hold your own. So other than that, it was fun. Like I mean, I honestly had fun when I played with people. I think Waldo and I got some games in, and then a few other people. Like when you run with a squad and you just decimate everyone, like of course it's fun, right?
Especially with that drop shot calls, man.
My gosh.
We'll get into that when we talk about weapons. How broken.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, I liked how you said that. You know, this wasn't like it's an actual beta. It's not the demo that companies have been saying are betas now, and now Coalition comes out saying it's a beta, and people like they just they assume it's a finished product, and then they see all this bad stuff. Well, but no, it's.
I think that's
a technical beta.
Kind of like going back to the earlier question, you know, how do they handle release stuff? Well, obviously there was a leak, you know, I'm sure we all saw that content. Mm-hmm. And the weird thing about that leak was people were saying, oh, it's pre-alpha. Like, I can't tell you how many times I heard the word pre-alpha. I heard it more than I heard adapt and reach, so you know it's bad. But regardless, everybody kept saying, you know, the footage we saw was pre-alpha. And that's great. But the thing is like at that point, it was almost like a console fanboy war where it was just like people were trying to put out fires and, oh, it's just pre-alpha, no big deal. Like the beta's going to be 10 times better. I'm like, well, the beta drops in a week, so I highly doubt that, you know. Some of the YouTubers, like some of the YouTubers, I'm not gonna name any names, but I mean, like they were all saying, yeah, the events that we went to, that we were invited by, you know, that was all pre-alpha footage, the beta this, the beta that, but like clearly the beta was pre-alpha, so like the whole confusion, that's really the thing, is like the beta was very much so a confusing time to a new player. I think that's like the worst thing, for a couple reasons. Obviously, just the terminology reason, but I mean, you know, when we discuss things like active reloads, which I'm sure we'll have a fun chat about in this podcast, but like it's all barrier to entry stuff, you know, and I think if anytime you're confusing players, like you're not doing a good job.
Yeah. I don't think
confusing players.
They put nothing in the beta really about those new mechanics, really.
Yeah, because
if you don't follow them on Twitter or like go on the forums or something, you'd have no idea. Dodger had a bug thread where people would go post bugs, and like half of the post would be the active reload's broken, I can reload whenever I want. And it's because they didn't explain in the game that, hey, this is a new feature we're testing out.
And we also
the Tac-Com, you can see enemy grenades and
and we got fun posts like, Coalition is actually Epic Games, they just changed their name.
That was a great post.
That was a good one.
So yeah, I mean, people are very confused, I would say, whether you're brand new to the series or even if you've played the other games but you just don't really follow, like you said, social media. It confused a lot of people, and so I don't think that's really getting off on the best foot. But I think TC, like I say all this with a grain of salt because like I already had other conversations with other people, so I know like our best interests are definitely in their minds. It's just, you know, we unfortunately, I guess is the best way to put it, we're given a pre-alpha beta, you know, put out into the public, and I feel bad for the community, I guess, in a way, because a lot of people are going to treat it as a final thing, regardless of what anyone says, and you know, a lot of them might have been already turned off to it and probably may not think twice come October. So that's an issue, you know.
Well, not even like piggybacking off of that, like it's a huge disservice to even call it a beta. Like, oh, we're gonna call this a beta, but it's not even a finished beta. Like, we're running on a pre-alpha build. We know that there are issues. We know that the weapons are really imbalanced. And I get it. Like, you're showing off the game, you're showing off the cool new features and all these other kind of gimmicky things that you want to show off. But then at the same time, like, the build like the weapon balance in this game has probably been like off of a beta has been the worst like ever. Like there's no comparison of like it wasn't even a barrier to entry. It just wasn't fun because it wasn't balanced at that point. Because no, like the shotgun was first thing I noticed was like shotgun is all that matters. Doesn't matter what rifle I use. Doesn't matter. Like I'm gonna get run up on. I just have to play a shotgun game because we didn't balance the rifles, and then we gave this new active mechanic into the game, and it completely just it divulged and like tore away from everything that this game could have been like off the launch. Like a lot of people probably got alienated by it. Like I'm coming into this game and I'm getting dumpstered, and like no one told anybody about the co-op versus AI or what it is. I had no idea what that was until I watched the stream at PAX on Sunday. I was like, oh yeah, we got this mode where you can play against bots and you can actually level them up in the game. I was like, well, that would have been nice for everybody to know day one, not like after the fact. And that's the thing is the biggest issue I have is transparency with the entire way that everything's being handled, because it was like, oh, we're doing this pre-alpha build, and then they did a stream and they're like, oh, there is stopping power, and you know, they start talking about different things. I'm like, why can't this just be posted somewhere? Like, this is what's here, this is what we're getting, like 2 weeks out before the beta, just so that all the information's there, that it's not like this top secret thing with the beta. Like, here's everything that you need to know and what you're going to be getting. Here's what to expect, and then we can go back and talk about it. But the problem is we wanted to get an alpha out and something that's playable, and then we're going to sit here and say like, oh, it's not finished, but it will be. But what about all those players that had never played Gears before? They hopped into the beta, and they've been alienated now because the graphics and everything are so low tier in comparison to everything else. Like, this isn't even running in 60 frames a second. It's like 55, and we're having frame rate drops. Like, on a console game, it's that's really devastating on any marketing standpoint. Right. So they've got a lot of redemption between here and October to kind of be like, okay. And not to say like I don't think the TC can do it, but like you shot yourself in the foot when you didn't have to, and that's where I think the big issue is, like on the beta as a whole.
I would have felt better if they just would have called it an alpha.
Yeah,
like that perception would have eventually gotten around, and that would have probably handled the majority of it. Just because then people can know what to expect from an alpha, and know if they do run a beta later in the year, then it's probably going to be a lot further along, you know, in terms of mechanics and balancing. So yeah, you're right. Like they really didn't have to put themselves in that situation. Unfortunately, they did.
Yeah, a lot of people see a beta and they think, oh, this is a demo, or like, yeah, this is a demo of it, and then they're just calling it a beta. If they call it an alpha, nobody thinks, oh, this is just a demo. Everyone realizes, oh, this is.
This is. Well, I think it goes back to that. Cliffy B said why they wouldn't do betas for the first 2 Gears games is this exact reason. Yeah. Is because people will play it and they'll be like, this game's garbage. Why am I going to spend my money on it? Like if you're gonna, that's why they have to, like, betas that have been done are all polished. Like, this mode has been built separately just so that we can show off the game so we can sell more. This was like a really big, like, hey, we want to see how the game plays. We're going to throw everybody into it, but we're going to call it a beta, and good luck.
Right.
So would you guys rather had the beta at a later date?
Yes and no. I think I would have liked to see I would have liked to have a stable frame rate, maybe some better weapon balancing, but that you have to have like an early beta to kind of figure out where that is and people's opinions on it. So I mean, it's good because we got to vocalize all the issues with it, but I don't think like a later beta like in July or something is going to change anything with it. You know, it's kind of like after the fact. You might as well. It's good that they got it out of the way early in the year, and they've got 6 months or so to kind of go back and really work at the multiplayer. But we'll see how that translates.
I mean, a closed beta with an NDA or something like that for, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, and then a couple weeks later they can actually release the open beta, and that way they'll have time to do, I mean, nothing major but some minor things like some.
That's not a bad idea, but everyone knows that no one abides NDAs in the Gears community. Everyone knows that.
There's no such thing
know.
as non-disclosure. It's like Indeed not doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Waldo. Like the time frame, that's when it needed to be. It's just it was so early on that we got the issues that we did. But I mean, the other thing too is like there were a lot of arguably more polished games that had betas around the same time, and that can also bite you because you could say, oh, well, there's all these particular things I could play right now that are free and accessible. Do I want to play the one that is really like super far behind, I know has a lot of issues, or do I want to play something that feels a lot more polished and is a new IP possibly as well? With Battleborn or the new Doom and Paragon and like Overwatch is now in beta. So like it's just been beta frenzy, and so yeah, I mean I don't know. Like there really wasn't another time frame, but it would have been nicer, I guess, if the polish would have been there. But unfortunately, we can't change their decision making. So we just have to make do with it, and like Waldo said, like it probably put a lot of people off on the game, unfortunately.
Well, it's good talk about how the beta was handled and all that stuff. But how about we actually go into the beta?
Okay.
To hopefully some good parts, like really good parts. So like we said, there's only 3 maps. Do you guys have any problems with the 3 maps? Like, what was your favorite? Were they too similar, too big?
Harbor is probably the best designed flow map, I guess. They're just the lanes and stuff is probably a lot better. Dam, I don't care what anybody says, they literally copy and pasted gridlock and changed some things. Like it literally is gridlock shape, and they're just like, oh, we just they'll never realize this. I see it. It happened. Yeah. Like,
yep.
And Foundation's not terrible. Like, I like that they showed it off for Escalation. So I didn't think Foundation's too bad. I think there's some good and bad. Like, it's a generalized flow is good, and I think that was one of the things I commented on in my beta review that I did today. I think that the maps are probably the best symmetrically that we've had. Like, it doesn't feel weighted one way or the other. There's pretty good balance of right hand and left hand advantage, and the right hand is really major in Gears because we've never been able to switch hands with guns. But the overall balance was good on that, and I think the movement mechanics were probably the best that they've ever been in a game. So,
oh yes.
So from there, like if I'm rating the beta like on that, like it's probably a 6, just because the foundation for like the structure that we're gonna have is good, but the problem is then we have to go and look at all the other things in the beta, and that takes everything back. So we're looking at like maybe an overall 5, because then there's like weapon balancing and all that other stuff we'll get into. But I mean, map movement wise, we're okay. Like I'm like, okay, we finally fixed the movement thing where I'm not getting stuck on everything and I can kind of fly around again. So
yeah.
that's nice.
Like going back to UE, got stuck on everything.
Yeah.
Go
ahead, Typo.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm kind of with Waldo on that. Like, I really didn't like Dam at all. I feel like the run out to snipe is just way too long. Like, I never want to push for it, especially when I have a boom shot. It's like, oh, you can try and snipe me. I don't really care. I'm just going to stay on this bridge, throw a smoke, and get a new boom. Or drop shot, which is equally as scary. Probably, arguably more scary.
I'm better with drop shot than I am with boom.
That weapon is just outrageous in the right hands, the right team.
Yeah,
oh my god!
Artist with the drop shot.
Oh my god! Okay, well, anyways, no, I just didn't prefer Dam at all. I felt it was very one-sided, and I didn't like how the fight in the middle of the map even worked. Like the whole flow of stepping up on that, it wasn't a bridge, but the structure in the middle just felt odd. Like I don't know.
Platform.
Yeah, I just didn't like the area to fight in, really, and so I overall just didn't really prefer the map. Harbor was fun. I think Harbor overall is probably the best map in terms of like a symmetrical map. Like you have good runs out to an objective out on the dock to play for drop shot. or you have a nice run if you want to try to counter that by getting a torque. The whole area in the middle works pretty well. The only thing I will say, Walter brought up left hand, right hand, is if you do try to play left hand at nades, especially in the beta because of the delays, left hand at nades trying to fight that is just so much harder. You're probably going to lose nades, especially if it's like a 2v1 situation. You're just going to have to like fall out of that fight. So I like to see maybe something added to where you can fight that better. But other than that, the map is pretty solid. And Foundation, when I first saw it, it was like a shock and awe factor. Like I heard a couple people's opinions, and I was just like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna like this map at all. But then the more I played it, the more I enjoyed the routes. Obviously, it has some issues around the pillars. We'll talk about those, I'm sure. But overall, I liked it. One of the things that got criticized to death in Judgment was verticality. I think the map does a really good job of adding interesting verticality without obviously letting us jump off roofs or anything. But it has a lot of fun routes, like getting to flank underneath at nades and go up to torque. The whole fight at the torque stairs feels very blood drive-ish, but not. I don't know. I enjoyed the map the more I played it. I would say it's probably overall my favorite map. So,
I think the thing that stood out to me the most, which I think is one of the points Dodger wanted to bring up, is we were playing, I think we were on Harbor, and one of our friends said, okay, so where are you guys going? And we're like, drop shot nades, duh.
Drop shot, duh.
And you look at all the maps, and I mean, a lot of Gears maps in the past are like this too, but you have drop shots and nades essentially on one side of the map, and then you have your torque bow or long shot on the other side of the map.
Yeah.
And in the beta, unless it was somebody who really wants to use that sniper, someone who really wants to use that torque, everybody just goes drop shot and nades. And
if they want to win.
And you dominate the map.
That was my 100% of the time strat on Harbor, was just running to drop shot.
Yeah. And it was the same on Foundation. I would go frags and cut into drop shot. Dodger would always go straight down to drop shot. Yeah. And then Dam was the same way as well.
Yeah. The only time I didn't was in that situation where I tried to fight it left because I knew the team was sending like 4 drop shot really strong, so I'd probably get free nades. But yeah, like I feel that explosive weapon balance like makes the maps feel really one-sided, especially Dam. Like I mentioned, like why would I run all the way out to Timbuktu, grab a torque bow, or try to fight it for a sniper if I can just go get a boom shot in the middle of the
that's
map?
Where the enemy team respawn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that never happened. And I think that's just the overall flow. Like Leon brought it up in the chat. Like we're talking like this is execution style. Like these maps are probably going to be the maps that we're playing in Escalation. So that brings up a whole nother thing of why like competitive weapon balancing should have been like S tier should have been like, hey, can we balance the weapons before we go live? Because it is weighted. Like even in a team deathmatch scenario, you're going to the weapon that you know is the most OP thing in the game that's gonna help you win.
Yeah.
There's no reason to fight torque versus a drop shot when you know that the drop shot's more contestable and you can do more with it. Sniper requires you to have gun game, and right now Gears is not a gun game centralized fight. Like it's not about fighting anybody. It's not about winning like skill and hitting your shots. It's about who can blow each other up first, and that's literally what it was. And it detracts just overall. Like I said, it's a negative experience, and you can't tell me like, oh yeah, well we'll fix it sometime. Like it should have been like weapon balancing should have been like a top issue with this. Just because you're playing respawn game modes, like if the weapons are more balanced, like the flow of the map's better. It shouldn't all tunnel on like one area all the time, and that's a good key point that should be looked at. Like, you know, if we're looking at the heat map, where's 90% of the fights? Well, 90% of the fights are going to be on the most OP weapon in the game, and it's all going to tunnel there. Because then, why is there any reason to go for any other objective?
Yeah.
Because that's really. Like with Dam, like all you need to do is just control the drop shot and grenades area, and you can hit anywhere else. Like what I would do, like if I got the drop shot, I would look directly at sniper. I would see a guy coming right at it. I'd be like, okay. I would aim slightly down. The drop shot would go right over there, and right as they're picking it up, kill them. Okay, they're out of the map. Now let's spawn camp.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a drop shot round for sure, because I remember ending one of the last games I played in the beta, I watched the guy as he ran out of spawn. I was like, oh, he's trying to, clutch with a sniper rifle. I'm just gonna wait, play this right, and send a drop shot soaring through the air and headshot him for the final kill. I mean, really, there's no point in holding that entire side of the map. And the one thing I know that a lot of people complain about in Gears 3, at least smart TDM players, was that you really just need to win that initial fight and then just continue holding that zone, and then you don't lose. Like you literally have to do nothing else. You just are handed a free win, and that's really what it feels like. If you play it smart, you hold the objective that has the most OP thing on the map. You just continue to hold that area, and the kills come to you basically.
Yep. Now, like with Harbor, that was my favorite map. It kind of played it well enough that DropShot was on the lowest part of the map, and that Torque Bow and some of the parts of the ship up there were kind of protected, and it took a while for the DropShot to get there. But still, if you win that initial contest with grenades and DropShot, and the other team goes for Torque Bow, you have all the advantage you want. Like,
yep.
You can take your time, use DropShot, use grenades, you flush them out, lance them down if you want. I mean,
what I would normally do is I would just rotate. Like, I would win the initial, I would grab the weapon and then bring it to another area of the map, and then we'd just hold that entire side of the map. And then once we knew that we were running out, like, okay, I just shot this last drop shot, it's going to be up in 30, we'd start rotating our way back and just secure that area. So I mean, like, really it was all about that initial fight. And then once people, because I noticed some people try to do it against me too, like if they won drop shot, they would just backpack it basically. And that's really a whole problem with the game. Like, I know that we've written essays about it practically, no, not even practically, literally, about how weapons should be on a set timer, similar to Halo and other arena shooters.
So you want the static timers rather than dynamic? Yeah,
if somebody's gonna backpack a weapon, like, man, come on. Like, it's just such a frustrating thing. Yeah, it's just extremely frustrating. But regardless, like, neither here nor now. Yeah, I don't think it was a lot of fun. That's really how the flow of the maps played out. Like, I wish like we would have seen more people rushing for those weapons, because I feel like the sniper is actually really good in this game. I feel like in the right hands, it can be a really devastating weapon, but it's not drop shot or boom shot worthy, still. So why bother?
Yeah.
And just a comment on like just the overall map for Harbor. I call it deck because that's essentially what it is, where you go into the middle of the map. Like, that spot was not contested at all. Like, maybe one or two guys ever go up there. But I mean, you could, if your team's smart, knows how to set up some decent crosses, and you were playing it super nerdy, like, you can contest drop shot from deck and not even have to worry about the other fight if the other guy's holding off the sniper, because you can cross down onto drop shot as they're going in, and it's just like fish in a barrel. They're not going to get out of there regardless. Like, if they're running in to pick it up and you've got one guy spotting and another guy calling out, like, map control with these maps is a lot better than it was in Gears 3. Like, you can actually play the map and win, but you have to be pretty coordinated with that. So I think that's an advantage to kind of counter the power weapon aspects of it. But again, the power weapons were just, they were stacked on stacked on stacked of power.
Yeah.
Like, they're just way too strong.
Yeah, I know that we got in a situation with just, it wasn't even like pro players or competitive players, just people that have been playing the game for a long time, know how to really play it, and just working together and calling out and spotting people. We were just able to get ridiculous kills with a drop shot, because spots through smokes, in spawns, knowing routes, like, just triples and doubles galore, because the weapon's pretty indefensible, really, and I don't know exactly what they would need to do to fix it. But I mean, I just know drop shot on Foundation, even though with all the verticality, like, I would basically launch it in the air and it would go flying, 3/4 across the map, and I'd get kills from it, just because I knew generally where it was going to be, because it was spotted for me, Yeah. So I'm not trying to play up like my skill, because I feel like a lot of people were doing this, and the weapon either needs to probably just reduce overall explosion radius, or there needs to maybe only be 2 shots in it, because right now it just feels way too powerful.
I think 2 shots, if you reduce that blast radius, I think that would nerf it too much, essentially.
Yeah, it could.
So I'd say the 2 shots. And people are like, oh, well, Boom has 2 shots, and that's easier to use. But, I mean, DropShot might be harder to use, but if you're any
You can
good
do
with
more
it,
with it.
you can do
If
a
you're-
lot more.
Yeah,
that's
there's
true.
a difference. Like Boom has an arc that goes down. DropShot has a straight line in the air that can drop
Yeah.
down on you. Like
Yeah.
you have to aim. There's a little bit of aim mechanics with the Boom, not a lot, but anything with stairs and gears and that cracked out geometry that they love to use, like it makes you got to kind of be smarter where you're placing your boom shots. But with the drop shot, I was sitting there spotting. I'm a map player. Like I can lone wolf it most of the time. But I was literally taking a part of the map and I was just like, okay, I'm spotting. And all of a sudden you'd see drop shots come across the map and Typo's just killing everybody. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is the easiest game we're ever going to have because we don't have to try. Like this is baseline mechanics. Like we're not competitive players. I try to I'm good at gears. Like I've always been good, but I'm not a competitor. Like I don't have enough time to invest into this game like other people do to be a professional player. It's just not I don't have a passion for it. I have a passion for the generalized game and helping other people get good at it. But at the same point, when we're looking at the map and 2 people that have baseline like intelligence and mechanics can coordinate those kind of things, and we're not a competitive player, like that tells me how broken that weapon is. With like even the shooting time is pretty short. Like even if they extend it out how long it takes it to travel, like the travel time, that can be another nerf that you can do to that weapon to kind of take the power out of it. Or like even an audio cue on it that it's in the air. Like there are other things that you can do besides reduce the power to make the bounce the weapon out. It's just too strong. It's like Torx right now. You can't hear the torque bow revving, and you're just like, oh, I'm stuck. Great.
That's a glitch, though.
Yeah.
They acknowledged that and said that's going to be fixed.
But
but
like how you said with
you're
the
right,
2
though.
people coordinating, like on Harbor, I was at the drop shot. I see like the last guy in Dodgeball. The last guy was spotted. He was running up from commands, like one of the command centers, the spots where you can shoot down at the drop shot. He was running towards the smoke grenades on one of the sides. I'm like, okay, let me lead you up like a quarterback and a wide receiver. Shot him. Wait for it. Now, and I got him.
Once you figure out the timing, you can lead people. Incredibly easily. And if they're spotted,
it's some of the most satisfying things in the game for the beta. But it's like, what if people so much better than me?
I mean, the thing is the thing we've always known is that the boom shot. If you're fighting with a boom shot from the bottom of a hill, you are at a disadvantage where you probably can't pick up an easy kill. With this gun, it doesn't matter. If you're at the bottom of the hill, they're at the disadvantage. And so it's having the fact that it's 3 shots and being, enough to be skilled with it like that, the gun is just way too powerful in its current form. Like something has to change because nothing should really ever be more powerful than a rocket. And this thing is in every way more powerful than the boom.
Yep. Well, I mean, we kind of segued into the weapons just by talking about the drop shot, so I think we can just cut the drop shot right there.
Yeah.
Let's do like the starting weapons. I mean, like let's do the rifles, Lancer and the Hammer Burst. Like
the Hammer Burst is a tickle machine.
It's a tickle machine, yes.
Take that hammer burst and throw that garbage out. If that's the weapon they're going to give me, you might as well just delete the damn thing from the game. I'm so tilted.
Yeah. So my thing is, did you guys play Black Ops 2?
No, I didn't.
Nope.
Oh my gosh. Wonderful game. Like, honestly, one of the best shooters we've had on console in many, many moons. But in Black Ops 2, there were 2 main assault rifles that people preferred. The M8, which is a burst gun, and the AN-94, which is a full auto gun. The upside is the full auto gun. The first 2 bullets shot faster, so if you got that that drop on somebody, you could basically kill them a little quicker. And then the M8 was just extremely consistent burst fire gun. The thing is, both guns, given like the situation, could outshoot each other. Like that was the thing. They were pretty much even. It was more a preference, This game, it's not a preference because neither gun are even remotely even. Like I admire what they're trying to do by introducing the classic gun back into the game. I prefer that it's actually a hammer burst, right? Like that makes sense.
Honestly, it's a burst
but it just
fire
doesn't.
retro that's been
Yeah,
nerfed at high
it
hell.
just doesn't work like at all. It doesn't do what it should do, and the Lancer in every single way, shape, and form is way more useful. I really feel like Cliffy B was trolling us by saying that it was useless because that gun was anything but useless in the beta. In the hands of competitive players with actives with headshots, etc. Like the Lancer is just nuts. So I don't know. Like I feel like right now they have a long way to look at that hammer burst and try to balance it if they really want it to be another gun in the game. But that people use and like prefer to use, like that's the biggest thing. But then we also got to think we didn't get to see the retro at all. And so that's such a that's just such a controversial gun that like we don't know what's going to happen. And that's like the fear of the unknown is almost like more scary at this point because we know that what they just gave us in the beta and we have no clue what they're going to give us in the final game with that particular weapon. So like the starting weapons right now, just use the Lancer for everything.
So
did you see my post on Twitter about the retro being in the beta?
No.
Because like you said, the retro is a controversial weapon. So what if they just changed the name and the skin of it? It's the hammer burst. What if the retro is a hammer burst?
Kill myself.
So without the bias, of it's a retro, it sucks and stuff like that. They're like, let's just skin it as the hammer burst and see how people like it.
So without getting into too much discussion about the retro, I mean, I think we can all agree that it sort of sucks. It wasn't in the beta, so we couldn't test it out.
Yeah,
but
too.
Sucks is in the game. But it sucks even more that it wasn't even in the beta.
But one thing,
True.
I've never seen it mentioned anywhere that it definitely is a starting weapon. Is it?
True.
I think they mentioned it on stream.
I know they said it's in the game, but I don't know.
I don't know. They said they were going to try to make it like a more supportive role weapon, which kind of makes me think it'll be another weapon. Like they're going to try to do the weapon loadout guns. But my biggest issue is like if we're just talking base rifles, we're not looking at any other starting weapons. Like the base issue that's wrong with the Lancer is that it is still too much damage and it still has too much of a rate of fire that it makes it super strong. And actives on top of that just stack because if anyone doesn't understand how stopping power works, it's per bullet. So even stopping power was confirmed in the game. That's mind-blowing enough for me. But each bullet, the way that they're packaged or written up in the code is that each bullet has its own value of stopping power and damage, and so when you active, that damage gets increased and so does the stopping power. So when I was testing it, like I was using the hammer burst and I got full actives with the hammer burst, it didn't do anything. It wasn't like it got stronger. Like I hit somebody with 4 body shots and followed it down and it still didn't kill him, but then I would pull out and half clip a Lancer on somebody and they would just drop. And that's just with leading in normal rifle skill. Like, there's a point where we have to look, like what they did, they went with the pro players and they at least nerfed it down to where it was, like it took, like they changed the balance at PAX, but then they never changed it in the beta. So we were playing, again, LAN versus online. We're playing 2 different worlds and that can't happen anymore. Like, whatever's done on one needs to go, like, hey, we did this update, we need to go take a look at this and be like, okay, so we did this at PAX, we're updating it for you guys because we feel this will be a better experience. And then I would have been like, okay, this is better. But, like, starting rifles, the hammer burst, like, why even make another rifle if we're just going to throw them out and not use them again? Like, even in competitive, like, I don't see other people picking it up. In an Escalation, which we'll probably get to later, like, it's a secondary weapon that you can pick up on the map. Why would I even select that weapon when it does no damage in the first place? Like, yeah, it's exactly right. It's like, oh, we got an extra weapon. I was like, I think it's cool I can start with 2 rifles, but only one of them's good, so why should I have 2? Like, it just doesn't make sense or correlate well with the flow of the game.
And I saw some interesting suggestions. I think from Tao and like Biscuit Dough, they were talking about how maybe it would be interesting if the hammer burst did play that support role where you could fire it very quickly, reload it very quickly, switch maybe to your shotgun a little faster, or maybe with Y like while running or something like that, like to where you had some incentive to know you were being gimped in a fight like between a Lancer and a Hammerburst, but you were able to like maximize your support in some other sort of way. I don't know. Like, it was an interesting suggestion, but obviously, like, that's just like extremely radical of a suggestion. For what we've seen just in the beta, like, I think a lot of people too thought we were going to get an update. Like, I saw a lot of murmurs about, oh, wouldn't it be great, once the beta goes live for everyone, if we get like a little sneak update slid in there, wake up to it, and all of a sudden the balance is a little better. Clearly, that didn't happen. So, yeah, right now I just think that for what we saw in the beta, it's pointless to even use the Hammerburst.
Yeah.
I could say almost the same thing about the snub pistol. Like, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it was like it's horrible past what, like just regular medium range. Like,
But
it's
I
just-
like the fact that you don't have a pocket Hammerburst now.
yeah.
I think it's good that they finally nerfed it into a place where it's there
A
as like a
last
utility.
resort.
I mean, it could use some power. I mean, like if I clear a clip and a half on you, you should probably drop. Like, I think that you can give back some damage, but there's got to be a point. There needs to be a balance point between where if I'm getting shot with an automatic rifle and I'm getting shot with a pistol at the same, like, and it's a constant rate of fire and I can throw it out, like, the rifle should win. Like, that should be the base thing. Like, in CSGO, if I'm shooting a pistol and someone's shooting me with an AK, the AK is always going to win unless they're hitting headshots. So unless there's some differential, like, in that, like, that's where you need to balance the gun out. I don't think that it's any issue overall with, like, the pistol being too strong. I just think we've never had good balance, period, across the games. And that's really where we're always plagued with is, like, well, what if we did this? We've never had a perfectly balanced Gears of War game. I think the closest was, like, Gears... Well, it would have been Judgment Day 1, but then they nerfed everything. Like, someone's like, oh, we decided that we were going to put in this thing where you melee somebody, does 60% of their health. And then everybody gets shotgunned, and they're like, "Oh, we'll buff the rifles because that's what's wrong with the game."
Dude, that was so
And
bad.
after they buffed it, they're like, okay, let's go to a 2-weapon instead of a 1-weapon, like one starting weapon. So
I was like,
I literally won FFA games on Rig or whatever that map was, would just hit Fire Lancer when that buff happened. Like, it was ridiculous. Don't ever do that again. TC, if you're watching, don't do that ever.
Don't
FFA
sit
you
there
can
and
do. Just don't buff them.
Well, yeah, well, that's the thing is, then this is the logic, because it's like, well, the shotgun has 90% of the kills. I was like, can your buttons, like, record what actually was getting hit first? See how many times there was a melee thrown and then a shotgun. And then you'll realize that it's not the shotgun that was broken. It was the fact that you inputted a melee that stunned people.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I got in this interesting conversation the other day on Twitter about somebody said that they watched a competitive match between competitive teams. They weren't like the best teams, but they were, competitive. And they watched one match. They saw one person's POV. That's it. Keep that in mind. And they were like, yeah, I only saw like one fight where actives were like ever even really, taken into consideration. Only one fight where actives really made a difference is what I saw, is what the person was saying. And I'm like, you don't understand, like actives are occurring every single second, between all the other POVs. Like you're thinking in one shotgun battle, did I see actives, come out victorious? Not the fact that every single Lancer fire, every single pistol fire, every single other shotgun shot by a teammate whose POV you can't see, all that affects the game. All that affects the fight. And so, like, just because a shotgun in this particular instance, like Waldo was saying, just because the shotgun gets the final word or the last bit of the kill, doesn't mean that the snub pistol wasn't the thing that downed him, or the increased, not the increase, the crossfire from two guys lancering the guy was the reason he was down, and the shotgun was just the easy thing to clean it up with. I mean, that's just crazy. Just because you say that 90% of the kills or whatever the stat is, to base your entire decision off of that is just ludicrous.
And it was day one. Like, it wasn't even a week versus of testing. It was just launch day. Yeah. And literally, I had Quinn Del Hoyo. He was like, I was at PAX Prime after the game launch because he had moved on to Halo, and he was like, yeah, they did it day one. Like, the weapon, he was like, we were in the studio at Epic, and we had everything fine-tuned. And then as soon as the first day came out, they threw it all out the window because the numbers looked bad. And I said,
That's crazy.
Who doesn't know how to analytically look at the numbers and be like, what is the real problem here? Like, you're getting enough surface data. Okay, the shotgun's doing a lot of damage. Well, why? Well, everybody, like, I could go and watch a stream and just watch, like, everybody's running around like a tool and throwing melees and shotgun.
Well, like,
okay, well, there we go. We figured it out.
The age-old tale is always that, competitive players weren't really respected or given a lot of attention because Epic, quote unquote, I don't know exactly who it was, didn't like the way that they played the game, right? Like they didn't like the shotgun. They didn't like the shotgun wall bounce fest, all that stuff. We get that, but like you can't deny analytical data that says this is what's really occurring. It's not just because it's a shotgun game. Like, granted, I treat the primaries in this game similar to like how they are in Halo 5. You have to use both your pistol and your AR. Like you can't just play the one shotgun game and just think I'm going to shotgun body the world, right? Like you can't do that. You have to pull out your snub. You have to pull out your lancer, and that's like the best thing about the game really is that it forces you to play that way. And if you don't play that way, you don't live very long. I don't know how they ever come to that conclusion, though.
We'll get into that later when we go into like the whole reason that things were implemented. Because I've got the interview. Like I went back because I'm that nerdy to go get the interview with Cliffy B, where he actually said, like quote for quote, he was just like, "This will make the game more competitive and more intense." And I said no one ever. Like that is not what happened when you did all these changes. And that's stuff that has to be looked at as a whole. Like, I mean, we could go on for days about the weapon balancing, but it comes down to this, is like, we've never had a game that didn't have active damage and the weapons were balanced past one day. So, and I mean, in a studio, you're like, well, you're not testing it on an open basis. Like, you're not getting a lot of data points. You're testing it between people that are probably going to play with a little bit more chivalry than people that are playing online who are going to be nerdy and cheese the hell out of you to win the game. Like, you're just competing to talent. Like, there's two different environments. Like, your studio environment is the safe place. Like, no one's going to do anything super mean there to beat the crap out of you. But then when you get online, like, welcome to the real world where kids got sticks and rocks and they're going to beat you with them just because they can.
Yeah.
Like, that's how the game has to be looked at. And I don't think that perspective is ever taken seriously, where people are looking, like, the question's not being asked the right way, I think, just off the way that things are looking. It's not asked right. Like, no one's asking the question, what will happen if I give, like, normal player A this opportunity and this much damage? What will they do with it? Will they choose to exploit it, or will they be like, we'll be a little bit more honorable today, and we'll give some tea, and we'll have a great night? No, they're going to pull out...
One me in a national battle, melee first.
No, there's... I mean, like, they're going to come at you with sticks, rocks, whatever they've got. They're going to put you in the dumpster, and they're just going to be like, you didn't.
It's really kind of sad, too, because, like, similar things happen in the Halo community. It's more so from, like, getting out of maps, right? Like, oh, we found a way to get out of this Forge map. Let's abuse the mess out of it. But, yeah, like, we're so far behind in Gears that it's like we have to have discussions about how people are beating you with sticks and rocks because the weapons solely aren't balanced. It's not even a getting out of the map or finding some ridiculous game-breaking glitch. It's like the weapons alone are the issue, and we can't seem to just fix that. Like step one should be fixing that.
Mm-hmm.
So on the topic of weapon balance, you want to jump into the big hitter now?
The shotgun?
I was going to say actives, but...
No, we'll leave that. I mean, we can jump into the actives.
That was next after the Nasher. I was going to say the Nasher and then everything else.
We'll go into the other ones. So, original concept for actives. Everybody who's watching this, if you end up watching the VOD, this is the core reason this was added. They were doing gameplay testing with people in the studio, and they created this feature where people would active their guns to reload faster. The problem is that people would just not even be aware that the feature was there, because it was just like they were just used to every other game. Oh, I'll just reload my gun. That's fine. Well, no one was using the feature, so they were just like, well, screw it. I got it. We'll play a minigame. If you get a perfect one, I'll give you free damage. Free, absolutely. You don't have to do anything for it. You just have to hit this little bar. Well, then, as John's doing, like, I was like, great, makes sense. You know, in the campaign, if anyone's played it on Insane, makes perfect sense. Like, cool. Insane in Gears of War 1 was broken. Like, you were getting slaughtered. But at the same time, they just, like, the multiplayer was such a late creation in the Gears of War universe. It was like the last 6 months before the game came out. They literally just copy and pasted everything. They were like, this, here. And then they just added into the game. And then you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, and back then, we're not thinking on this level, right? This is 2006. We've never had a game like this. Who are we to question weapon balance back then? Because it was just like, it works. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
like
it's hard to question weapon balance when it's a new IP too.
Yeah.
Like this is the first game, so all you can really say is, that seems intentional. But like let's just look at an older game in the Microsoft system here. Halo 1 had a 3-shot pistol. It was glorious. Did it ever return? No, because it was broken. Now, of course, it's in Halo 5 as a pickup fun thing that you can do in customs, etc. But like, no. That's why you question these things. We can't just like continue to let the problem repeat itself. So anyways, go ahead, Waldo.
So anyways, they go in and they copy and paste it, and then we're like, okay, so we gave free damage. And then we're just like, oh, we get in this quote because we're on actives now. So essentially stopping power actives, they're pretty much like hand in hand. They're like a married couple.
We can talk about both, yeah.
They essentially, Cliffy B did this interview with IGN, and IGN was like, yeah, so weapon balance, what is your opinion? Well, we feel like the game's really shotgun heavy. So what we've done is, Gears is not about this. This is not the way to play Gears. He said it like I'll have to look up the exact interview quote, because I did it in one of my other videos that was super unpopular because I called it Gimmicks of War, and people were salty about that shit. But, the big thing with it is that they said is like Gears is about flanking, taking opportunities, cover fire, suppressive fire, all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, it was designed to be a stop and pop shooter, but that's not what this game turned into. This game turned into a tactical cover based shooter, which was much more enjoyable than playing Rainbow Six. So it was a lot more fast paced. You didn't get cheesed everywhere. Like, took some skill. The movement mechanics got better over time. People started like becoming even better wall bouncers and getting more solid mechanics. So what they did is, instead of embracing like the whole part of it, they were just like, we're gonna change everything and you're gonna play the game our way. And so they stopping power, wall tagging, all this stuff all got wrapped into one package, and they were just like, yeah, we added this thing called stopping power on bullets, and if you're running at someone directly, it will slow you down till you physically stop. And I just, like, my whole reaction just died inside. I was like, and they're like, and it makes the game more intense, you'll see. And I'm like, no, it didn't. Like, it completely made the game worse and more campy because you can't make pushes. That was the one good thing about Gears 1. Like, you could push aggressively, but now in this game, like, Gears 2 turned into, like, smoke stun, stopping power, wall tap. Like, there's so many things to prevent the natural flow of the game that it just degraded everything to the floor. And it's just like,
let's just, by show of hands, how many people have been stuck on Blood Drive because you can't push a guy in a room because he's tagged a wall? Come on. Yep.
It's the
terrible.
same thing. And it slows down the game, and they're just like, it's competitively fun. I'm like, it's just a gimmick that you added to the game to force us to play a certain way. And then that's where we finally started taking a look, like active damage and stopping power. It got to Gears 3, and we finally were like, what are we doing? Like, this gun is so strong by itself. We can't push anywhere. Even with smoke stuns, like, you're getting crossed out. It made Old Town the worst map to watch competitively because you literally can push nothing. You just sit up there on one side of the map, and I have to sit there as a caster going, this is entertaining. This is so much fun. I was like, I am so bored on the cast at Winter Brawl 9. Like, articulating, this is not fun. This is not enjoyable. Like, they're so afraid to make decisions because the weapons are so imbalanced on this setting. And the elevation of the map is so broken that you can't do anything. And everyone's like, oh, it's balanced. I'm like, it's not. Why? Why are we giving free damage now? And why is stopping power still there? Like, nerf it. Like, just take it out. We don't need, like, there's a trade-off. If anyone plays MOBAs, anyone plays other things, like, there's a different strength in weapons. In CSGO, if you buy an AWP, you know that you're getting a one-shot kill rifle if you hit your shot. Well, in Gears, we just don't even need that. We just give you free damage on your Lancer and you shoot me in the Swiss cheese. Like how is that balanced? And everyone who was having the argument with us about it is like, oh, it makes sense. It's been in the game. Well, is it right to be in the game anymore? Do we need free damage? And that even goes to the point of, like, and I'll let Typo hit on that point because I know where he's going with it already. But for me, it's like, if we get rid of the active damage, our guns have to be nerfed down here, right? Because we have to imbalance the weapon to compensate for the overpower that we're throwing into it. So why don't we just get rid of this element, make that reload shoot faster, and just balance the gun's base, and then see where the game goes, and then keep doing balancing.
Genius.
I was like, I'm blowing my own mind here, like, and I'll let John hit on the other point because we've had this discussion.
I mean, really, like, my thing is players, especially new players, like that's my biggest gripe. Like, I love this franchise so much, but I feel like the problem it doesn't really grow is because we don't want to make it a skill based game. Like, we want to continue to add these gimmicks, and it's so funny because, like, the gimmicks are there so it can grow, right? Like, that's the idea. Like, we're gonna make it easier so that people can thus play the game and be good at the game and not have to really put the time in and learn and all these other things, right? Because then they'll want to play the game and we'll get numbers and we'll grow. And, like, I guess I can understand the reasoning from, like, a boardroom perspective of how do we sell more, how do we make more revenue, how do we get more people on our game, blah, blah, blah. But, like, the funniest thing about it is, like, League of Legends doesn't do that, and it's huge. CSGO doesn't do that, and it's huge. Like, the games are hard. Like, the only thing that really changes with competitive CSGO is, like, the bomb timer defuse stuff and all that. But, like, the base game itself, like, the game doesn't actually change. Like, if you're bad, you're bad. If you continue to play, you continue to learn and you continue to get better over time. There's an actual skill-based rank for that. And, you know, you get ranked accordingly because of how much time you want to actually put into the game. And if you live on the game, you're rewarded for it, essentially. And that's really the issue is, like, we live on the game and we feel like we're not really rewarded for it because we continue to just have a game that's extremely easy. And so the funniest thing I read over the whole course of the beta was something I saw on the forums the other day. Some kid was trying to make the whole nostalgia argument that, you know, it's always been in the game. It's what makes Gears Gears. If everybody has it, it's balanced. You know, it wasn't any shred of anything outside of nostalgia, really. You know, people were making arguments also for the new system that that, you know, because everybody can do it, everybody can get these actives at the same time. We can all just pump and get the same amount, you know, out of the get-go. Like, it's okay that it happens with power weapons at the same rate. Like, all that's fine because, you know, everybody can do it. And that's such a backwards way of thinking because the next thing the kid said on the forum was that and excuse me if he's not actually a kid, he might be a grown man, he might have a wife and a kid, I don't know, but regardless, the thing he said that was ridiculous was the fact that now we got off track, I can't even remember. The thing he said was that because we can all do it, it's, oh gosh, now I really have forgotten. Now I feel terrible.
What, that it's balanced?
Darn it, Typo. No,
fair?
not that it's balanced, not that it's fair. Oh, dang it, no. Why do I always forget?
Playing field.
No, not that it's an equal playing field. Oh, it's that other games don't have actives. That was his whole point. He's like, other games don't have actives. Actives are what make Gears of War a unique game. And so I'm just like, you know why other games don't have actives? Because it's bad. like how
You're
do
talking about the active damage boost, right?
Yes, the boost.
Yeah,
The boost,
okay,
but it's like,
I think actives are awesome. Just the
right. No, the mini game is fine. Like, look,
but
I love the fact that if I mess up, it's my fault. I jam my gun.
Yeah.
Totally fine with that. But the reason other games don't have actives is because it is bad. Like, no other game does it. and it's not a
damage.
unique thing to Gears of War because Gears of War does it. It's a thing that's hurting the game because no other game does it because they're smart enough to understand that this is a bad thing for our game. Like, this is not a balanced thing. This is not something we should introduce in multiplayer. And this is something that is essentially a barrier to entry for the new player. Like, I know Waldo touched on it in a video. I gave him some pointers. But really, like, as a new player, you have to come into the game. You have to learn all sorts of stuff. You might have played multiplayer before. You might have played the campaign before you started in multiplayer. Who knows? Maybe you actually learned about this co-op TDM mode thing, and you actually went in there and figured it out. But regardless, if you didn't, you're not going to understand anything about how far your Nasher actually shoots in a fight. You're not going to understand how screwed you might be in a fight without actives. You're not going to understand base movement. You're not going to understand advanced movement and advanced shots that occur from advanced movement. So, like, really, if you have to roll all that into one and try to teach people, oh yeah, if you don't have actives, messing up. How do they know that? But you know what? If my gun is consistently a 3-shot kill, let's say, and granted, I know a shotgun has range. Like, that's the big thing on the Nasher is you have to be in a certain amount of range. But like, we know what chunk range is, right? Because we've played. If they've played enough with the game, and it doesn't take long. I feel like if you've played Gears of War for 30 minutes, you should understand. Hey, I'm close enough. He should probably die in this range.
Yeah.
The gun should just be a consistent gun. Like, I know I brought up a point to Node Zero on Twitter where I said, in Halo 2. A 4-shot kill was a 4-shot kill was a 4-shot kill. No matter what you did, the only time it wasn't a 4-shot kill is if you got body shots and they soaked them up, etc. But like, if it was me and you squaring off in a strafe battle, if I land 3 shots to your body, that last shot to your head, I know it's a 4-shot kill. Every single time. If it's a 5-shot kill, guess what that means? My thumbs suck. If it's a 6-shot kill, they really suck.
But Typo, what if he reloaded before he started battling you?
Oh my gosh, that doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. Like the amount of bullets is always the same. It's a 4-shot kill gun, and you either get the 4-shot or you don't. Now, granted, that's a rifle, and like I said, we're playing in a shotgun game, and yes, there are rifles that are important to support in suppressing fire, but in a shotgun battle, especially in this beta, everything was a 1 to 2-shot down, right? Like, you either chunked the guy or you downed him in 2. It really wasn't like a 3-shot down with the Nasher. People didn't really get away too often. I felt like if you were a good player, most battles ended very quickly because everything was OP. And so it's almost like that line of thinking where, again, like, barrier to entry, let's make this super easy, gimmicks of war, etc., is that people like fast gameplay. People like Call of Duty. If we make the game easier, if we give the characters maybe a little less health, or we just buff all the guns, make everything OP, therefore nothing's OP, maybe we'll make the game enjoyable for those players. Well, you know what? That doesn't work because actually it just backfires and it's not good. Like, everyone is calling foul on it and saying, oh, all this stuff's OP. Like, the explosion radius is huge. The Nasher radius is ridiculous. I was getting tank rounded from like 30 feet away from a single active shot. I'm 4-pointed behind some cover. I'm just like, nope, I'm done. I'm just recording this. Nope, I'm out. The game just needs to be consistent. Ryan, if you're watching Node, like, please, bro. That's like the biggest thing. Just remove them. If you remove them, trust me, the game will become a better game.
Didn't Judgment remove the active damage boost?
They did,
yes,
and that was
the best thing they did.
It.
And
we
look at Judgment. Everybody hates Judgment. But
everyone hates Judgment because they released 4 maps. Let's be real.
No, but everyone hates Judgment. But what's the one thing people always say about Judgment when everyone hates it?
It had no actives.
It's, oh my god, the weapon balance, though.
The weapon balance.
Yeah.
It had, initially, day 1 was good. After that, it was kind of a wash. But we'll take it after that.
If something that everybody hates, but there's like one good thing that comes out of it, are you really gonna like say, oh no, let's ignore that one
over
good thing?
Here and move it over here?
Like, you finally have a game that people like the weapon balance on for a little bit, and then you completely erase that and you go back to the Gears 3 style.
It's so like, it hurts in my head. Me and Typo have conversations like daily about this kind of stuff. It just doesn't make sense because Gears is a game that we could have so much gun game in and gun skill, but we don't because we have all these gimmicks like throttling the, like, it's a skill ceiling, right? So Like, you learn how to reload your gun. That's one skill. You learn how to wall bounce. You learn how to lefty strafe, or you learn how to do all these other, like, high-end mechanics, but there's no gun skill in any of those mechanics. Like, you just need to hit your shot, and you'll be fine. But it's not based on hitting your shots. Like, if the guns are in more of a, like, on a more balanced state, like, we can have gun skill and we can talk about it. That's why I was so excited when UE was like, oh, we turned the actives off. I was like, finally a Gears game that has gun skill.
Best
because
2 days of my life.
it was so much better because it's like,
Yeah.
it's not just getting hit with an active. Like, they have to hit their shots consistently, and you still have a window of opportunity to outmaneuver them and outplay them. It's like, I don't know why we're so adverse to that aspect of it, because hitting your shots should mean you're doing good. I hit 4 hammerburst shots on some dude, and he ran up and one-shot me with an active clip on shotgun, and I was like, I hit all 4 shots. I hit them with everything, and he was running straight at me, and I saw the hit markers. None of the bullets went up, but I still get punished for having gun skill because the other guns are so strong. Like, at some point, someone just has to be, it's broken.
Well, if you had gun skill, you would have switched to your Nasher and shot him.
Yeah, that's great logic. Like, you would use the most OP gun too. I was like, yeah, but I want to challenge myself. I'm sorry that I don't want to handicap myself with one weapon. But that's the issue here, is like, free damage is the issue. I don't care if it reloads faster. Like, cool. It's a cool mechanic in that aspect. But
that's all it should do. Honestly.
Yeah, it's all it should do. We should never give free damage, and it's free. Like, if anyone ever was going to be like, it's not free, you have to hit the perfect one.
It takes skill.
How many years have we been playing Gears? How hard is it you hit that perfect at every time? Like, literally every time.
Like shoot a torque, roll backwards, and still get the active in a smoke, like getting pushed. You're still gonna hit it. Like, it's so muscle memory ingrained into your play style. Like, it's not hard. Anybody that would argue that it's hard to hit an active is just ridiculous. Like, it's not hard at all. Like, I swear, I could probably turn my volume off and turn my television off and get actives. Like, it's ridiculous. You shouldn't be giving any free damage to anyone. They should be rewarded for actually hitting shots, being a good player, learning the game, like progressing their knowledge in the game, you know, spending that time watching those players, watching those events that you're trying to publicize. Like, you're trying to publicize that this game is going to be an esport. Give them something to watch. Like, look, whenever I sat at home, this might show how old I am, and I watched Halo 2 being broadcast on USA Network, and I saw like the greats like Ogre 2 and all these guys, you know, Gandhi back whenever, you know, with Carbon and etc. Like, they were all on the screen playing a video game that I played every single day of my life. I never heard of MLG, and I could tell you that just by watching, because the game was so simple, right? Like, I think games now are just too overly complex. Like, the reason Tony Hawk Pro Skater is a dead game is because they got way too much stuff on the map, right? Like, it became terrible. But regardless, that's such a weird tangent. I could easily sit at home.
That actually makes perfect sense. Like, it ties in. I like
it. Was way too complex. They just started going crazy with it. But look, I could sit at home and I could watch those matches being played, you know, 4v4, and I could respect the skill that those players actually had. I could say, oh my gosh, I've been in this situation hundreds of times at home on lockout. I can't believe he just did what he just did. And I don't get that same sensation when I watch Gears of War, especially Gears of War 3 and currently people playing this beta or who played the beta. It's just not a very skillful game to watch. And like Waldo was saying, you know, from a commentator standpoint, I went back and watched some Gears of War 2 clips recently. I definitely don't encourage that any of you ever do that, because Gears of War 2 MLG was like the most boring thing ever. Especially if you watch like matches like River or something. But
have you not watched Gridlock on UE?
Oh yeah, no, it's bad too. But I mean, like it's just really, really, really boring. And so I don't know really what the line of thinking is, but the game has to become a skillful game. If it stays a gimmicky game, it's just not going to work. Like, people aren't going to flock to it. People aren't going to actually respect it. For a very skillful, like, it's definitely one of the most skillful console shooters, arguably, that has ever existed. It's just, it could be so much more. And I think that's why, like we said earlier, did you ever truly love something if you can't honestly critique it? And that's what this is. Like we're honestly critiquing the fact that we love this game so much. It could be so much more, but yet it's like we just keep getting met at a wall, a barrier to entry, to actually make this game a great game.
It's like a carnival ride. It's like, unless you can do these 10 things, you cannot play the multiplayer. Like, that's what it feels like. And it's so convoluted at this point of why we do things. Like, if anyone's paid attention to anything on like gaming at all, like Infinite Warfare was just announced. It was announced with a Call of Duty 4 remaster. Do you know what everybody will buy that game for? Not Infinite Warfare.
Yep.
Because we finally, like, we've reached it that the industry is keep trying to be so innovative that they've just become stale because it's not changing anything. Like the different dimensions and running on walls and all this other stuff. Like,
Titanfall. Yeah.
You don't want maps on other planets within our solar system and in space?
God, no. But I mean, even that, like, Rainbow Six Siege is doing better than people expected because it's simple. It's tactical-based shooters. Like, you have to be smart about it. It's not, you're not in space, you're not running up walls, you're not doing anything different. CS hasn't changed in, like, 10 years. Like, nothing's really changed with CS aside from like adding some maps and doing some weapon balancing. The core game is still the same. And that's what there's a skill ceiling. It doesn't have to be more complex to make it more skillful. It doesn't have to be this huge thing where we have to do all this crazy stuff to make it more barrier to entry. It's like when we get into like the cover mechanics and why the hell the mantle kick came back. It's like, yeah, it's cool. I get it. Yeah. I get it. It's cool. But at the same time, like, make it balanced. We don't need it. It doesn't need it. Because no one's going to want to play it. It's like, I got gimmicked.
The interesting thing that I noticed in the beta was I got yank and shanked one time. I only ever got yank and shanked once, to my knowledge, that I can honestly remember.
I think I happened to me twice. So
I only yank and shanked someone once, and it was a bot, and it was because like it was the last person alive, and I got my one like unicorn kill or whatever. Other than that, I never did it. Why did I never do it? Because I felt like it was not only a gimmick, but I felt like I was at a disadvantage to ever even try it. Like, I'm just going to up A and kill the person, you know, or I'm just going to outsmart him with a strafe and hit a shot that, you know, he's not expecting. Like, honestly, like, dude, whenever, especially in this game, because the shotgun was so strong, whenever you hit somebody with a crispy reaction shot and they don't even know what's coming, bro, makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. But the thing is like, why would I ever do those things? Like, they don't need to exist. You're literally almost at a disadvantage every single time you attempt it. And so I don't know why we need the vault kick or the yank and shank or these knife executions. Like, in ways, I think it's cool. Like, I like the fact that we're going to have knives so that we can, you know, at least have skins for them, or the fact that we have skins for snubs and all this other stuff. I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but the mechanics itself, like the base stuff that's in the game, none of those ever needed to exist.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I like the yank. I mean, as you said, I don't do it. I've done it a few times, and it was like, oh, this is the last guy alive. Let me see if I can yank him and stab him. It's sort of like a humiliation type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I mean, I don't think it really takes away from the game by having it in there. If anything, it's, okay, I can do it every once in a while. And if someone tries to do it to me, I'm going to get a free kill on them.
I'm just watching all
this. But it comes down to that comment of, is it needed, though? Like, do you need it to make the game balanced?
To make the game balanced, no, but same time, I mean, so I come from a completely casual perspective rather than the
I was too, side. Like, way back in the time. Like, before I did all this stuff, like, I was very casual, and I was very, like, it's whatever, it's fine. And then as I started thinking about it, I'm like, oh God, what have I done? What have I supported all these years?
But I don't think it brings imbalance to the game. And it does add variety. So I don't think it's bad in that aspect. It adds variety. It doesn't imbalance the game at all. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be in there.
Yeah, like the mantle kick, the yank, knife executions and stuff, I'm okay with them like that, but like you said, making the game more simple, like stopping power and active damage boost, it should just go.
Yeah.
It's not needed. Like that's like a true gimmick that's not needed. The
I
yank,
can't
counter
wait,
knife
though.
execution, those are more fun. But like on foundation at the T cover at drop shot and boom shot, I'm always right there in the middle, right there. During the beginning, there must have been at least 20 times when someone's trying to yank me. I just go around the corner, you're dead.
Yeah. I can't
'Cause-
wait till someone's in a situation where they don't have a reload or they don't have time to reload and they're 4-pointed and they yank somebody for the final kill.
And then
That's
knife
gonna
him
be-
in the face.
That's
and
gonna be ridiculous.
And all you'll hear, like, in a competitive environment, like, I'm just seeing the problem before it's there. Like, it's not going to be used, but the time that it is used,
Yeah.
it's gonna be. It'll be cool. It's like, yeah, that happened. It's great for the spectators, but I'm still gonna be on the other side of the table going,
Yeah.
that
Why'd
shouldn't
you
have
do that?
happened.
You know how we have caster predictions for ESL and stuff? I'm just gonna make a caster prediction right now. I don't even cast. I don't even travel, Kappa. I'm just gonna make a caster prediction right now. Whatever the first season is for Gears of War 4 is gonna end with a yank and shank for the bread. Just watch. Just watch, like live on stream. Guy's gonna be dead to rights. Yank and shank's gonna come down. Somebody's gonna go home a lot richer than they should.
And everyone's gonna be like, I don't think this should be in the game anymore.
Yeah.
And I've been like,
We told
got all
you.
this- I just think it's even with the like it's. Here's my issue with it is like, it's the mantle kick initially was terrible. Like I think we all can agree on that. Like you couldn't stop it. It was just kind of like it detracted away from the fights that used to have over cover in Gal 1,
Yeah.
if anyone was there with it, where you actually had to be playing mind games over cover while the dude's trying to active you in the face and
Yeah.
you're trying to like bait them to go up to get your shots off. It was really strategic on that
Yeah.
point. It kind of just detracts it to, oh, well, they even said it in the video at PAX. They were like, well, they were having these awkward cover fights, and it just seemed really odd, so we decided that we're going to add this other thing. I'm like, that was the most intense fight that you have, and now it's just like, I can reach over cover, but if I
Well-
reach over miss, like, I get there's a trade-off, but I still don't think it's like, it's necessary, like, it's just not.
I don't
Well,
think
the
it's
one-
gonna have any effect
Not
on
enough
competitive
reward
play,
for the
though.
amount of risk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the way it played out in Gal 3 was kind of like grenade tags did in Gal 2, was that you almost kind of feared the fact that he was on the wall because then you knew you might not be able to push that particular moment. And so it did kind of, in a way, slow down the game because you could say, you know, he may not try to mantle kick me, but if he does, I'm screwed. And so it
your
was really like a
approach.
detractor. Yeah, it was really a detractor in your approach. And I feel like that's kind of what these sort of do in a way. I mean,
Well, they added
I will
the
say
vault in to
I
counter
will
that,
say the
so-
vault. Yeah, I will say the vault is a lot better than how the mantle kick was in Gal 3 because you actually have to run towards the thing, so you can at least know that somebody is coming at it. But like Walter said, it was still way more intense, even though it might have been quote unquote awkward.
And it was inconsistent. I mean, the
Yeah.
hit detection.
I went over. I
Yeah,
mantled
got through.
somebody. I landed up on the other side of the cover, or it put me back behind the cover, or like I get
They
they
do the
fixed
camera
it.
thing where it
Yeah,
like
so
trying to
it's
go
like,
up with you.
Oh nope! It's like
Yeah.
pulled me back. I was like, oh god. But we'll get into. Well, we're already on the. Wow, we're already in the cover mechanics. But we didn't
Yeah.
even talk about the
Yeah.
other weapons. We'll have to go back.
Well, I mean, it's like we talked about most of them. I mean, like we talked about the Lancer, the Nasher, Hammer, Snub. We talked a lot about the drop shot.
yeah,
Torque
bow's
bow.
too
Well,
quick.
you can't hear it or see it really. Long shots, okay, but it's different. Grenades are a little bit too explosive-y.
Yeah,
Boom
there's a
shot.
lot of range. Let's just say like explosive weapons have too much. They put too much gunpowder in. They need to like throttle back on some of that, and the radius needs to go shrink a lot. Like it just. Boom shot was probably the most broken thing. I think I came out of spawn when I was playing with Typo. I was like, I got him. He's like, what do you mean? There's all of a sudden this boom shot with an active because you can do that. Just killed like
Yeah.
4 people. And I was like, told you, I got him.
Actually, yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't bring that up when we were talking about actives. The power
Oh,
weapons, the fact that you can active reload a
I
boom
hope
shot.
Yeah,
that's-
that's the most broken part. Cause like boom shot or drop shot, like, oh, I ran out of my active. Oh,
you wanna talk
I
about
failed it.
this?
Okay, whatever. Got it.
Yes, let's talk about the Acme Buzzsaw that we're going to put into the game because that's a good idea. Ugh. There are certain things out of this stuff that I see off the videos, and that triggered me worse than anything else. I literally was watching on replay as the guy's over cover, and he's like aiming it out, and then all of a sudden he shoots the cover, and then it bounces back and kills the dude, and I'm going, the blade ricochets. Like
At 180 degrees. It's
yeah,
like,
just beep, 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 beep. Like I'm playing Pong, and this is what I said in my other gimmick video. I was like, I'm gonna be running from an Acme saw blade only to get shotgunned in the face because I'm trying to not die by this dumb thing that won't stop chasing me. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like cool. Like, and this comes to like me and Typo have said it before. There are things that exist in the single player that are okay for the single player. Not everything needs to translate into the multiplayer environment. Sure, in Horde or whatever else.
The trip shot, or what was it?
Yeah, the trip shot judgment never came into
Tripwire crossbow.
Yeah.
Tripwire crossbow, yeah.
That never made it into the Gears 4
That
or
was my
Gears
favorite,
Judgment.
though.
Or sentry, or those
I
sentry
wanted
bots
that.
that you use on those little
Oh
horde
god,
moments.
could you imagine those on the
That
map?
would be great. Oh my gosh.
But that's my point. Is like everybody's like, oh, we have to put all the stuff in the campaign and the multiplayer to be awesome. And I'm like, listen, this whole bigger, better, more badass thing that Cliffy B started needs to stop. Like, it doesn't need to be more badass. Like, just be like, this is a little too cartoony.
Well,
we need to come back on it.
So speaking of the fact that you said things in campaigns shouldn't always translate over to multiplayer, the one thing that's in the campaign that we know that isn't translating over to multiplayer is wind. And granted, we haven't seen it, so we know it's intense though. But do we think that we might at some point see maps like Avalanche or something of the effect? I'm trying to remember the map in Gal 2, but I mean, like, do you think that we're gonna see that carry over at all? Because I feel like they're not
Environmental hazards.
I feel
Honestly,
yeah.
From a
Yeah.
casual perspective, I love them. I don't know what competitively what you guys think
I
about
agree.
them.
They're fine as long as it, like, Avalanche was fine in Gears 2 because it was timed. Like, you knew when it was going to happen. So it wasn't like as long as it's not random, like, at a certain period of time, this is going to happen, it's okay. But if it's like, randomly a tornado comes across the map and kills 4 people, and then you're just like, where'd my team go?
Yeah.
Like, that'd be a problem. But
Well,
I don't think it's that much of a problem.
So what do you think about it's random, but it has like a nice 10-second heads up like signal or something like Avalanche, the ground starts to shake or something like that. Because
the siren.
it would make it so you're playing competitive or something, and it's not, okay, I know that this next round this thing's going to happen, so let me change up my strat there. It's, I start this strat, and oh shit, look, the ground's starting to shake, this thing's about to happen, I need to change up my strat now.
I don't know. I don't think it would be too bad, like, as long as there's some kind of, like, big barrier, like, warning sign that it's going to happen. I think it would be a bad thing if it happens during, like, on a power weapon or some fight that's happening. Like, it's better if it's on a timer instead of just, like, randomly, like, programmed to come in and happen in the game. Like, hail. Like, that's what we should look at. Hail from Gears 2 had hail randomly, like it was still kind of timed, but it would still happen, like, randomly. Like, you'd hear the thunder, and then the hail would start coming down and start killing you. But if you're in the spot where you're going to hit with the hail and you have to, like, capture the objective or something, you're like, sacking for it, boys. Like, we're going all in. It doesn't matter. Like, I've got nothing left to lose. Like, there's a point where it detracts, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. I wouldn't be against it. I'm not against fun. I do want to say that. Like, I'm very much, like, making arguments for a more balanced game, but I understand it. Like, there's times where I just want to go play Gears and body kids just because it's fun, not that I'm trying to be competitive.
I agree.
But there's 2 environments that you have to have. You have to have the social and the competitive, but they need to be the same. Whatever we're playing on multiplayer, like, whatever settings we make, whatever balance we do, has to be the same so that there's no barrier to entry if someone's like, okay, I played social for a while and I want to go play competitive. Like, everything's the same. It's all married together. It's just competitive as a ranking. Yeah,
you just got better
stuff.
players.
Yeah,
No, you're right. Like we have to all be playing the same game. That's, like, first and foremost the biggest thing to take away. And with that, I feel, unfortunately, we're gonna have a lot of compromise. And so, like, if I had to say just based off the beta, like, what could I be fine with compromising? I'd be fine with compromising smoke stuns. I don't like them. I think they should never be there. A smoke is a smoke. I think that the cloud was probably maybe too big in the beta, but it did what it should do. But if I had to compromise, I would leave it. And I want AR damage boost gone. I don't really think that would be a fun compromise for anyone, because I think ultimately what a lot of people don't understand from like a casual perspective is like, oh, these MLG guys, these competitive players, they just ruin all of our games, blah, blah, blah. It's not that we want to ruin games, okay? Again, like Walden said, we're not opposed to fun. It's that we understand that a balanced game is a good game for everyone. Like, I don't really know how you could possibly argue that point. Like, doesn't matter who you are. Like, do you want a balanced game? Well, yeah, of course, right? Like, who doesn't want a balanced game? Okay, well, cool. Well, this is what's going to have to happen to make it a balanced game. And then it's going to be good for everybody. And so, unfortunately, there will be compromise to that. And so, nade tags, they're up in the air. Like, are we going to get them taken away? Probably not. But
honestly, I think the Tac-Com thing that they added does a really good job at countering them.
Nah, it's terrible. No, I mean it does, but again, it's like it's a slowdown thing. Like, I feel like
it's not as slow as it was, but it does slow it down. Still.
I feel like I said earlier, the reason they made this game potentially easier to get kills with, all the guns felt OP, like everything's OP, so therefore nothing's OP. Is because they wanted the game to be fast. But yet, if you leave that stuff, it makes the game not fast. So it's like, what do we do? Unfortunately, I'm going to have to announce that I'm going to have to go pretty soon, in like probably the next 5 minutes. So if you want to like lightning round any of these things with me while I'm still here, feel free. But that's just kind of my general thoughts. It's like, I'm fine with if we got a couple compromises and better weapon balance. I think the beta, honestly, but come October can be a really fun game. We probably won't get everything that Waldo and I and several other people that have supported, making Gears of War a better, more skillful game. I don't think we're going to get all of them, because at the end of the day, TC is going to make whatever game they feel they need to make as a studio. But hopefully they are listening to our feedback. They are taking, things like this, content creation and surveys and all the stuff that they say they're doing. They're taking them very seriously, and hopefully a lot of good comes from that.
So,
well, we've touched on a lot of the stuff on like our list and stuff like that, but we haven't really touched on one specific thing that I want to get your opinion on before you leave.
Yeah.
What do you think about dodgeball?
Oh, it's fun, super fun.
Like,
I mean, I really enjoyed it. I do think if you get a kill, you shouldn't have to wait the 5 seconds. And you have that window where, say you're getting crowded by like 4 people, you're just gonna end up, not getting to get that clutch in, and get your teammate to respawn. I feel like if you get that kill, you should just get that extra spawn.
Okay, so you don't have to survive for 5 seconds.
Yeah, I feel like if you get a kill, you should be rewarded for it. Period. It shouldn't be a game of keep away.
Yeah.
I mean, we're difference of opinions, and that's fine. I don't think it's bad. Like, I honestly think that it's playable, right?
Like,
it was
the game either way.
Yeah, I still really enjoyed it. It's just, that's my thought. Is like, man, I've seen people like get in those situations where like a 1v4 or something, or 1v5, I guess, and yeah, they do pull off some sick kill or even maybe 2 kills, but then somebody takes them out and they don't get any reward at all for it. That kind of sucks.
Buzzkill.
Yeah. But no, it's fun. I really enjoyed it. I will say I don't think Warzone should be in the game at all. Period. Yeah. Please delete it.
I made a video on
get
that.
rid of Warzone. No one plays Warzone. And if they do, yeah, I know you did, but that was a different time. Like,
I know
Warzone,
it was.
Warzone was like not.
Warzoner.
Warzone is not what it is now, and like, if we have Warzone, people really just want to play Warzone because they really just want to play TDM, is how I feel it goes. And because we have Warzone, TDM, and Execution, it's almost like all the same thing in a degree. So like, I would just say trim the fat, keep Dodgeball, get rid of Warzone, and obviously you can't delete TDM because people are going to gravitate whatever they feel the most comfortable.
Right.
Now, could you see dodgeball as a potential competitive type?
Nope. Nope,
No?
won't be.
Oh.
If they
Won't
fix
be at all.
spawns, possibly, but not.
Oh
really.
yeah, the spawn.
No.
Oh, jeez.
If they
Even
fix
with
spawns, if they fixed spawns in Gears of War, it would not be Gears of War because the spawns are entirely
I forgot
broken.
they can't change what makes Gears.
No, well, okay. I will briefly, and this will be the last thing I say. I will briefly try to explain this. The spawns in Call of Duty are the exact same in essence as what we have in Gears of War, right? Like, think about it. You have two sides. You spawn on either side of a force. You have a very distinct starting spawn zone. Like when you load up whatever map it is, this is where this team spawns every single time. You might respawn somewhere else, like if you're playing Hardpoint, but the initial spawn is always in that same place, and they balance things based off rushes to S&D and stuff like that off those initial spawns. However, Call of Duty also has a very low time to kill, right? Like, we don't have a very low time to kill now in this game, particularly right now. From the beta, we kind of do. Everything's OP. But typically, it takes a lot more shots, right? Like, you're not going to melt somebody unless you have a sniper in your hand, you headshot them. Like, you're not going to melt them from like mid map with an AR because that doesn't exist. Like, the possibility to do that doesn't exist in Gears of War. So it's going to take a lot longer to kill somebody. You're going to have to follow up your kills. You're going to have to coordinate. It's a very team focused game. Not that say Call of Duty isn't, but regardless, from a slaying standpoint, what happens in Call of Duty cannot happen in Gears of War because of time to kill. And so because of time to kill, the whole spawn zone area doesn't necessarily work in respawns, because once you start mixing it into respawns, you have to worry, okay, well, is this too close to a power weapon? The other thing that Call of Duty doesn't have, they don't have power weapons on the map. They have all loadouts that you can choose. So basically, to change the spawns in Gears of War to where they would work for respawn modes would mean to entirely restructure how we spawn initially in the game. Like, we would have to change initial start spawns. We would have to make more available spawns on the maps. They would arguably have to get bigger, probably, to where we're more spread out. And then still the problem is you're spawning too far from power weapons. So you have to look at its sister game, Halo, which is built off respawns. And you would say, okay, how does Halo handle this? Because Halo doesn't have start spawns. So you'd have to basically study how maps are in Halo. A lot of them are very asymmetrical. However, some of them that are played competitively are symmetrical. So you have to have multiple zones. So you have to have like an initial base spawn and then a secondary base spawn. And then those spawns are based off of, where did the opponent kill me from? How long have I been dead? They're on a very distinct set spawn, like respawn timer. There's not some sort of wave spawn. So like everything about Gears of War conflicts with how its respawning system should work in a normal game like Call of Duty or Halo. And it just says, whatever. And so you're always going to have complaints. Like there's literally never going to be a time in the history of a Gears of War game, unless it entirely changes, that you will not hear complaints about spawns and about spawn protection. Because to fix both of those things would be literally destroying everything else you know and love about Gears of War initial spawns.
Okay.
Sorry, that was long-winded, but it's just the truth.
But it was good.
So I know you've got to go, so I'm going to throw something out there real quick.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of topics that I know you guys would want to cover, some stuff I'd like to cover. We can either continue if Waldo has time, or if you guys would like, we can pick this up some other time and do
Part
like
two.
Part two.
If
of
Waldo
this episode.
has time, by all means, I give my blessing, and he will probably mouthpiece and funnel most of what I would say, anyways. If you want to do a part two, that's also fine. It'll have to be sometime next week, but it's whatever he wants to do.
I'm down for either. Honestly, I've got time, but it's all dependent on what you guys want to do. If you guys want to do another one with Typo on here, I'm completely down with waiting, because I mean, we can cover some other stuff, because I think we covered everything up until like game types. So I mean, that's good. I mean, as a whole, we've gotten
we've
a
been
lot
gone
of.
for an hour and 45 minutes now.
It's probably one of our I think it's our longest episode.
This is
This is what MHK was warning us about.
Are
Me
you
and John
not
are gonna
entertained?
we're gonna be on the History Channel here with it.
Yeah, I think we've got a lot of topics to cover. Apparently, I found out that my mic is going through my webcam instead of my headset, so I bet that sounds great for everybody.
It's not bad.
You sound good to it. I mean,
No, I think my headset's going to Skype and my mic's going, or my webcam's going to Twitch.
Yeah, it's not good.
I mean,
So
we can do
yeah.
another one. I think.
So I think we'll
Be good.
look at timing, try and schedule a part 2 because there are a lot of topics. We've got escalation
Yeah.
to cover. There's
And they're good
DLC
topics.
and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good topics. I don't want to rush through them just to get through
Yeah.
them.
It's a lot of
Oh,
good
yeah.
community-based topics. I mean, but I think the most of what we did cover was pretty multiplayer focused, which was really the whole reason. So
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's a waste.
No, I don't either. I feel like I think those are topics that you have to hit on, and this is the biggest thing that the game needs aside from anything else is people to talk about things and make content be transparent. Because if you're bringing transparency to the issues, it's at least being talked about. And it's gone where we were just like, I've been around in the Gears community and I ran the social aspect of it for like 6 or 7 years, where you just talked about what was good about the game and what you liked, and you never admit it. You just kind of had like this glass room that was like all the bad things, but we don't go in that room and we don't acknowledge that that room exists. And then we get to this point where I'm like, I should have acknowledged that these things existed back then. Damn past me, you're a jerk. Because it's to the point where I feel like the game is in the spot where it can be the most successful because we're in a new developer, esports has kind of become more of a focus. But even at that point, like, Judgment was less like a week or like 3 weeks in there were less people playing Judgment than there were playing campaign for Gears of War 3 on a playlist. Like, we can't have that again. And with the span of days that you have, like, everything, like, the game's got to be successful within 90 days. That's your window. Like, you've got 90 days to be 100% successful, and that's where you gauge if your game's going to make it or not.
Yep.
We need the best game day one.
Yep.
And the best game,
waiting for the patch again.
And the best game is arguably the most balanced game, in my opinion. And hopefully we see that. I do feel like I have a lot of faith in the developer through conversations I've had with pro players that attended PAX, through conversations with them directly, through other people. But I mean, I feel like they can pull it off. My biggest thing right now is I'm more worried about time. They've got a lot to do for sure. Like, not just from a polish perspective, but obviously from a mechanics and balancing perspective. And so, like, I know Microsoft is a beast that just continues to churn and burn, through titles and through release dates. Not saying like devs are getting churned and burned, but I mean like they have a schedule. They have to be putting out content, and you could argue from like a console standpoint, like this year's kind of weak for Microsoft, and they're really riding a lot on the success of Gears of War, and so they really kind of can't miss October. But yet, I feel like right now, I think maybe even all of us feel October.
God.
How about May next year?
We're all fearing it.
It's really
just pull
it's
another
really
Gears
close.
3.
We're just feeling. No, we're feeling like it's Red Wedding, Game of Thrones. Like, we know it's coming, and we're just like, please don't let it happen. Please don't let us all die in one go. Like, it's just where we're at. And honestly, if we didn't care, we wouldn't say anything.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I don't have. It's not that I don't have faith in the devs. It's really just that I know that the timeline is super crunched, and if they had to delay the game, I would be 100% supportive of that decision if they made it, in the interest of time and in the interest of putting out a better product for all the fans of the franchise. That would be fine with me. I would be like, good job. Hey, you made the tough call, but you did it. And if it comes down to that, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I would be bummed out, like, oh, God damn it. But if it's in the interest of making, the best game possible, I would suck it up
in
for
October, release next year.
An actual beta.
Yep. All right. I guess we'll wrap it up then. Typo, I know you need to go. We'll work on scheduling to set up a round 2 because, like we said, there's some really good
long-winded.
topics. Yeah.
It's the History Channel of Gears.
Yeah, MK warned us, man. MK warned us all. All right, well, Waldo, Typo, thanks for joining us. Typo, thanks for being on again. Waldo, glad we could get you on a show. Look forward to
glad I was able to come out.
Yeah, look forward to having you on the next one. In the meantime, while we're waiting for the next episode, I guess, Waldo, you have your YouTube stuff you're starting up now, so people can go check out that.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of these discussions, but it's just Waldo going more in depth on everything.
And talking to myself. Yeah, it's really fun.
Yes.
I enjoy it. It's actually probably the best content thing because then I can kind of gauge like where I need to shut up and where I need to like tighten up my content, and that's kind of why I use John as like my vetting content. I'm like, John, how's I say this? He's like, you would probably say it in about 10 words less.
Yeah.
You shorten it up, so it's always good.
Just say
so,
10 words, more like 10 minutes.
I get a little long-winded. I get really passionate into it. I forget what I'm doing. It happens.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to hit the stop streaming button then. So thanks for joining, guys. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.